Hey, look at that. Yes, it is Thursday. It is 9. So it's UK Cowboys time. We've got the double Scottish and also joining us from Blogging the Boys. You might recognize him or you might not, but he is here. It is, of course, Brandon Laurie from Blogging the Boys. How's
What's
it going?
going on? Good. Everything's fantastic. You know, when you guys say 9 o'clock there, it's 4 p.m. Eastern on the East Coast in the U.S. here, and I have to say, I don't envy you guys in this scenario. I mean, I'm loving it. The sun's out. It's still an afternoon over here, so I get to enjoy a little bit after this. But I know you guys, it's getting late. But you know, listen, we're all here to have a good time.
Listen,
Yeah.
Brandon, if there's one thing we can say, you can notice from my hairline, Graham's hairline, this is what stresses us out being up so late.
Exactly.
But they always say, like, when RJ talks, about going like on the round table and stuff, I'm like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. I'll join you guys. And he's just like, you're crazy. And I'm like, look, you get used to it. And one of two things happen. You either roll with living off 2 time zones or you just go stark raving bonkers.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. And like I said, I mean, when it comes to the UK, and now that football is really progressing over there, everything is getting really advanced with fandom, and everybody's becoming smarter fans, more engaged. I mean, it's just a different way of life. And from what I hear, it's like you just said, it's you either roll with it, you accept it, it's a part of your life, or you just cut all ties and you move on to another sport.
Yeah, that does happen. But yeah, make sure, guys, you follow Brandon, his work on Blogging the Boys and the Writer's Block with Jess Navarez. And he's the more intelligent, enlightened one on the mailbag articles.
I wouldn't say that. Listen, we talk about this often between me and Mike in our separate chats. We say we complement each other well, and I think we bring very different perspectives and both very good ones, if I might add. So listen, I'm as good as you are, and you're as good as I am. So it's a good relationship we got going.
I'm just clinging on by my fingernails, mate. But we'll run in this week, obviously, with some of the news. We've got some comments flowing in as well. But yeah, we'll go with some of the news. There's some interesting things that have happened this week in Dallas Cowboys and NFL world. And then we'll go into some draft news. But I wanted to start off, guys, first of all, right, because this is a big one. And our good friends over in Canada, the Cowboys Can fan, did a good post as well. So it kind of brought me on about talking about Agent O. How do we feel about this rule change, guys? And who do you think gets the prestige number?
I think it's a crock of crap, to be honest. I don't really...
Hey, say how you feel, Paul.
Yeah.
I really don't. I like to me, it's just a number. It shouldn't really matter. I hate that. Like the whole this is sorry. I'm about to rant big time here. I'm sorry.
Rant, baby, rant, baby.
I'll get my popcorn out.
Right. They should never ever given the players the opportunity to choose their numbers. Especially you had just set numbers from number 60 to number 79 was O line and a mixture of D line, and like I said, the players above 90 was defensive line. At least you know the positions, but now you've got 11 can be wide linebacker, 11 could be quarterback, 11 could be this and that, 0 could be long snapper for all we care. Who cares? It's just it's so confusing, and I would find it more confusing for the referees because they at least know the position. If it's all based in the increments of the numbers, like from 0 to 12 or whatever, that would be could be within range of a quarterback, for example, or whatever. All the players in the 80s, wide receivers, for example, and tight ends. So that's my rant about it. So
no. I'm gonna take it one step further with you, Paul. What if they started doing Roman numerals? How would you feel about that? So you got the X and the V.
Mike, for that actual suggestion, you deserve a slap in the face.
Hey, it's not the first time you've done that to me.
No.
Do you know what? Talking of Roman numerals, we will get back to Agent O in a sec. I no longer like the Super Bowl Roman numeral thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with it. When it got to 50, just stop there.
Just make it numbers. It's more simple.
Imagine when it gets to 88. How many letters are going to be on that?
Not only that, a lot of people don't really care about Roman numerals to know what it is anymore. It's like everybody's looking. It's like, oh, wait. Let's go back to 50 and count up. What Super Bowl is this?
Yeah. What was funny is it was thanks to the Super Bowl. I was actually pretty good at Roman numerals in school.
That
Well, there we go.
So.
Go on, Gray. You were gonna say about the number 0.
No, just like I agree with Paul. Like years ago, you used to be able to tell a player's position by his number. You didn't have to know him particularly well, but you had him by his number. But at some point last season, on defense, the Cowboys. Let's go through the list. On the field at one stage, they would have had 2, 6, 7, 9. No, not 9. 11.
Well, nine was one of them at one point.
Their quarterback numbers in my eyes. And according to the Cowboys website, Kelvin Joseph is now number 1.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. And then Anthony Brown was 3. It's just everything was confusing. And I have to say, I don't like it as well. And I think that it's just from the traditionalist in me, I do really enjoy just old school. And listen, if it's college, I again, the NFL is becoming more like college football. They're taking not only things on the offense and defensive side of the ball, but now they're trying to include the culture. And I get all that, but the Nick Eatman brought this up on the break. I think it was yesterday when they had their episode, and he said, count, just start counting, and you start 1, 2, 3. You don't start with 0. Nobody says 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's for me, like when I played sports as a kid, if you were a 0, like that's like a negative thing. And now like with what it is, it's just, it's now going to be a jersey number. It seems like it was between Micah and J-Ron, and I think J-Ron kind of won that battle. And honestly, financially, I think Micah would be paying an extreme price tag. And we know Jalen Smith was in the 6 figures, and that didn't really last very long. So it's really, it's crazy.
See, that's not funny as well. If I was a fan and I had a Micah Parsons jersey at number 11, he decides to do number 0, I'd be absolutely fuming. I'd be mad. Well, what's the point of me having this number 11 jersey if you're every single season nearly you're going to change your number for God?
Because you've only had that jersey 2 years.
I've hardly worn mine. I've hardly worn mine.
I just bought mine just there. So
emotional, damn it!
Literally, like it wasn't the replica; it was the elite version I bought.
Oh wow! Oh yeah,
You've spent out.
I'd go big or go home, my man.
Well, and it's also, I know the other thing people are asking about too is when the Cowboys handed out, and I'm sure maybe we'll get to this, but handed out a few other jersey numbers to guys who they just brought in. It's like people are saying, with 21 being handed out so quickly to Stephon Gilmore, it's like, what does that mean for Zeke? And then also too, people were asking with number 3 going to Brandon Cooks, what does that mean for Anthony Brown? And if I had to say between the two, I think Anthony Brown, I don't think was ever coming back. I just think that's as soon as they got Gilmore, I said, I just think it really wasn't kind of doing anything for them at that point. It's a shame because you think with rehab and all that stuff, it would be great for him to stick around. But I think that with Elliott, listen, he already came out and said he wants to be 15 anyway. So if he comes back to the Cowboys, it's like, sorry, Will Greer, you're going to have to give up your number, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I can't see Will Greer doing that. He's not going to give his number up, is he?
Everyone has a price.
True. Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be quite interesting to see if they do use the number. I mean, to be honest with you, the way I look at it, the primary number really, when you think of Dallas, the big number is 88. So that's the number, the Dallas number for me. So 0 it's nearly here nor there. Let you say, Brandon, it's a college thing mostly, and a lot of like is spilling in from colleges spilling into the NFL lately. This being another thing. Won't be long, and targeting will be a rule in the NFL. It's coming. I can see it coming.
Man, it's just in the way that they were kind of talking about all these rules at the owners' meeting. I mean, you can kind of see that luckily, I mean, the fact that we're only talking about 0 being like a possibility, like it's good because they didn't really change the game that much. It's like, this is the only thing we can kind of hang our hat on. But, it even too, like kickers being in the 90s, again, that's in college. And, whoever it's already bad enough the Cowboys don't have a kicker, or, I mean, all apologies to Tristan Vizcaino. But, Cowboys don't have a kicker right now. So it's like, who's going to come in is already going to be criticized because it's like the standard's already high. Like you need to be better than what Maher was, better than Bailey. And then now if you have a 99 or a 98 attached to the back of your jersey, it's going to be even a bigger target on your back. So yeah, it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
See, here's the thing that I've like just one final thing I want to mention. Like, see if you have like a Hall of Fame career and you start putting like nearly every 3 seasons you change your jersey number. What number are you going to be enshrined in your Player Hall of Fame?
That is a great point.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like you can't exactly put all 3 or all the numbers of jerseys that you played in your career. It's just going to look absolutely stupid. So pick one number. That's it for the rest of your career. That's it. Sorry, that's me rant over.
Shit. We need hold on. We got a good one for this. Where's it gone? Oh no, I got it.
Yeah.
You've definitely put that one to bed.
Yeah,
But there has been obviously there's been some other rules. The first one I want to bring up, because I can see this be right. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I just love madness in the NFL. I just relish in the craziness when it happens. One of the rule changes that have come in that I quite like, purely for the madness of what it's going to create, is there's now no longer in the preseason cut down days. You get your 90-man roster. In Cowboys terms, it's 91 because of the international player program. So you've got the extra player there. There's now no longer cut down days. What happens is you play the 4th preseason game. At 4 p.m. the next day, you have to cut down to 53. I just love that madness.
I mean,
you imagine how crazy that's going to be? I like that. It, in one sense, it's good because you get to retain the talent that you've brought in. You've got your in-house talent. You get to take them all the way through. Because it is hard to see players getting cut. It's going to happen regardless, though. But now it seems to be, instead of a death of 100 paper cuts, it's just one big samurai sword in one shot now.
Yeah, and I do think that and feel free to jump in at any point, but like for me initially, I always look at things at a glass half full perspective, and I look at how the players that were cut on the first round or second round, like they don't have enough tape, to put out there. If they know that they're not going to make it through training camp, let's just say, it's a running back that the Cowboys bring in as an undrafted free agent. And if they draft somebody, you have Pollard, you have Dowdle, and you have Davis. It's like, oh, you kind of know the writings on the wall that I'm not probably going to make it. If I just need to put quality tape out there. So this gives players like that a legitimate chance to go all 3 preseason games. And if you have the Hall of Fame game for whatever teams, I think it's the Browns and the Jets, you have the 4th. So you play these games, you put enough film out there to hopefully land a job, and also keeps the starters out and not willing to put somebody like, maybe if it's a numbers game, you don't need to put a Leighton Vander Esch out there for very long, if just to have enough linebackers on the field. You don't need to put a Damone Clark on the field, because to me, you need to see Jabril Cox this season. You need to see Devin Harper. So get them all the playing time possible and get Damone Clark out of game 1 healthy, and then let the other guys play. So I understand it, but like you said, I mean, that's a brutal day for the coaching staff to have to talk to all those guys and say, hey, you're gone. Like, you need a mental break after that.
Oh yeah, big time. When you think there's just going to be such an influx of players as well on that free agent pool once they've cleared everything, you just think, wow, what how do you dissect all of that?
What's going to happen to the waiver wire when 1,200 names hit it?
It's going to be a long night in the pro personnel department. They're going to be like, all right, guys, we're working overtime. Because honestly, I mean, that's a great point, because there are some players that might slip through the cracks for a lot of guys, and they don't really notice them. And you could get a few starters, or maybe, guys that you can develop into quality players a year after. So, I mean, that's a great point, but we'll see. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Little Mac.
I've never noticed that. No, he's pointing it out. I'm like, I can hear it. Yeah.
Well, and ironically, I have also I'm a cat owner of 3 cats. I call them my little kids. One of our cats is named Mac. So I mean, it's perfect. The stars are aligning.
You're not an LSU fan, are you?
No.
That's okay then. There we go. We'll continue on the conversation. But yeah, I mean, there's been a few other weird changes, a lot of them more to be with like the clock. So instant replay doesn't go to 25 seconds after that. It goes back to 40 seconds. A lot of it seems to be definition rules and slight changes, like tripping is a personal foul. So that goes from obviously a 10-yard penalty to a 15-yard penalty. Most of it, though, when I read through it, it doesn't seem to be nothing major. I mean, there's the butt ram and spear, which is a bit of a crazy one as well. But a lot of it doesn't seem to be like every year. There's always the okay. We need to redefine what a catch is. Doesn't seem to have happened this year, which is nice. It's a nice change.
Paul, does it make you any more angry to know that the Eagles were the ones that proposed the 0 jersey number?
Philly doing Philly things, honest to God. Worst franchise ever.
Oh, yes.
Mike, we've been trying to work out what a catch is for the past couple of years now, so they can't make it, and they can't change it and make it any worse.
Yeah. What's funny is me and you, we can throw a ball back and forward to each other and know what a catch is. As soon as that enters an NFL field, it all changes.
When somebody decides what a football move is, let me know.
yeah. We're all on that one. But let's move on to some news about the roster guys. So Jonathan Hankins, and you broke the story as well, Brandon, on Brogging the Boys. You wrote a good piece on it. Jonathan Hankins back on a 1-year deal, so solidifies that one nose tackle position. 1.5 million for the year. But how do we all feel about it?
I'm pretty stoked about it, to be honest. Like, at least we've got our one tech, and it kind of it could potentially mark off the question of potentially drafting an interior tackle in the first round now. So,
yeah, that was going to be a question I was going to ask you guys, but we'll stick in the moment. We'll go back to that, Paul. Graham, what do you think of it? I mean, I know we've been talking last week about he was the missing piece. We want him to sign, so it just finishes everything off. You can put an exclamation point on the free agency period, but I know you're going to feel happy. But tell me how you feel, Mr. Graham.
It'll be nice going into the draft with fewer holes to fill. Anyway, you feel like you have to maybe reach for somebody in the later rounds. I don't think defensive tackle on the first day or possibly the second day is an option. But yeah, it's good. It's good that he didn't turn out to be a 1-year rental for the draft pick that we gave up. So we've secured him for a longer length of time than that. There was clearly an uptake in defensive line play when he came in, and like we don't have that big body, the one tick like Paul's saying. So good to keep our guys in the building, not have to go out and stretch on somebody in day 3 or pick up somebody that we don't know. You know, you hear the phrase all the time, we like our guys, so we're keeping our guys. And 1.5 million as for the length of time that he plays, the percentage of snaps, I think is a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Go on, Brandon. I know you dropped the news, so hit us with it. You made a good point. It frees the Cowboys up in the draft, but go for it.
Well, and a little peek behind the curtain, you know, we were talking on our Blogging the Boys Slack channel, and RJ was like, well, you know, when Fowler came down with signing, it's like, okay, let's just have something in the can ready for Hankins. So I've been sitting on that since the 21st of March, you know, waiting for it to happen. But it seemed like that the Cowboys were adamant about getting it done. They even mentioned that they also want to get Carlos Watkins, I think, re-signed. And I look at these deals that they've been handing out this offseason. I'm sure you guys have talked about it before. In my mind, this is hands down the best offseason the Cowboys have had so far with free agency. We'll see what happens with the draft. But in the previous 10 years, since I started really following the Cowboys, even when I was a kid, just smart, intelligent moves. And I look at also, you know, the deal to Hankins, the deal to Fowler. They also don't preclude the Cowboys from drafting somebody and then cutting these guys, you know, at the end of training camp, where it's like they're losing out on money. So I do think I was shocked that Fowler came back, because I thought that would be somebody that would kind of hinder snaps for Sam Williams. But to me, I also look at, with Fowler coming back, does that mean that they don't want to put Micah Parsons as much at defensive end and kind of have him freelance the field? Because to me, even if they draft somebody, we saw Dan Quinn work out Will McDonald, you know, draft prospect out of Iowa State. If they draft somebody in the first round at defensive end, that signals to me they knew that their best player on defense was really worn down by the end of the year. Let's get back to him kind of roaming the field, kind of being a freelance free agent, or a agent zero or whatever, if it happens. It would fit in that case. But if it does happen, I think that signals more of them trying to keep the pressure off of Micah Parsons because of his body not holding up.
Yeah, I need to ask if you're able to see my notes for this show, because the next segue was Micah Parsons as an off-ball linebacker more. So
I listen, for me, I think we're just connected on a level because we've been writing so long together. So we are connected.
Yeah.
You sure you two are not related at all?
He's got a lot more hair than I have, so. But it is a good point, because it is actually one of the questions that was posed to us about, do we need to bring in or draft defensive end or linebacker? And the answer, I feel, is yes. Still, like you say, you've seen a Micah Parsons burnt out because they're just trying to use him. Everybody talks about him being this movable chess piece on the defense. You can move like behind the line, on the line, 2-point, 3-point stance. Doesn't matter. You can move him whichever way you feel, which is great. But like you say, the issue then becomes season-long fatigue, because if you're using him that way, I mean, it gets nasty. I think there was one game. Which game was it, Paul? Remember we was looking at it and he played something like 65 out of a possible 67 snaps on defense.
Was it not the Giants game? The second Giants game?
It might have been. I'll have to go back and check. But it is crazy because you think the type of player he is and what he does on the field, like, that's a massive toll, a huge toll. You know, what that can do to you. It's a concern.
Yeah, I do look at even like a draft prospect like a Nolan Smith that's been getting a lot of buzz out of Georgia. And I was talking about this, I believe, on it was either our podcast we had on the Writer's Block, we had Zach Wolchuk of 105 Through the Fan on. And I said that when you have somebody like a Nolan Smith, like these guys that are becoming more lean in like this hybrid build, they do need a full offseason to kind of get their bodies into an NFL level. Like, that's why I think Sam Williams, you're going to see pictures of him getting, walking into training camp, massive biceps and everything. Everyone's going to be like, whoa, look at Sam Williams. Because that's just what happens. You need to kind of transition your body to that next level. So I look at someone like a Nolan Smith. He really reminds me of like a Hassan Reddick, where it's a slight builded guy. He has a high upside for being a good pass rusher, but Hassan Reddick didn't turn into Hassan Reddick until 2 years ago. And he's been in the league, I think, now for 5 or 6 seasons. So I think with the Cowboys, if they do draft somebody, it has to be opposite of what the build that you have in Micah Parsons, because he is a smaller guy. It's sort of that tweener again, like you mentioned. Is he going to be playing more linebacker? Is he going to be more defensive end? I think they just want to use him all over the field because that's where he best fits. But I do think the draft will kind of tell us straight where their plans are, because even if they take somebody like a Drew Sanders out of Arkansas at 26 for linebacker, maybe that means that Micah Parsons will be playing more defensive end, and then vice versa if they draft a defensive end at 26.
It certainly might. And, Matt, jumping back in, your new best friend, talking about what if Nolan Smith does fall to 26. But the question I actually have that got sent in to me, which is very close to this line, and I'll ask all of you this question. Nolan Smith, how far does he fall down before you start thinking about trading up for him?
In terms of what position you reckon he'll be at? Yeah,
like how far up would you trade? Like, say you see him around Tampa Bay, like 21. Would you go there?
Oh, I think he'll be gone before that.
If he's there?
If he's there, absolutely.
So would you go higher then? Would you trade up if he was at 18?
I was going to say 17 or 18, yeah.
Interesting.
But I don't see the point I was trading up. Because we have more dying need of other positions. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, if he's there at 26, then yeah, you can not mess up on it. But we need to keep intact of all the picks we already have right now, because of obviously with the whole what's his name, Brandon Cooks, we actually gave up a fifth and stuff like that. So we're less what we're getting in the draft capital this year. So we need to kind of be cautious what we're doing. And that so, but so far so good. We are making some really good moves right now. But in terms of Nolan Smith, if he's there at 26, it's hard to pass up on him unless someone trades up to get him in our spot. You ever thought about that, Mike?
That could also happen. But the issue is who would it be? Like when you're
if it's the Eagles, absolutely fleece them. That's what I say.
Yeah, but would you want to trade down with the Eagles and then they get Nolan Smith? How would you feel about that, though?
Well, at least we're stealing away the future for the next 2 to 3 years. I'd be happy with that.
Oh, I don't know.
Like,
go on, Graham. How high would you go? What's the limit? Or are you just staying as you are, letting the ball fall?
I'm kind of with Paul, because if you're talking about jumping from 26 to maybe the late teens, you're definitely talking about your second round pick, and that second round pick could be
something the following year as well.
Yeah,
perhaps.
it could be the next Trayvon Diggs. It could be the next DeMarcus Lawrence, who were both second round picks. So you never know. I prefer quantity over quality when it comes to the draft. I think to keep 26 and be able to pick again twice on day 2 is more tempting to me than jumping up for one player. If he gets to 22, 23, that might change because you're not having to give up as much. But yeah, to go into the teens, you're still talking about your second round pick, and I quite like to hold on to that because, as we know, the Cowboys treat it as a wild card. They normally spend it on a first round talent who has a flag or two. So if they can shake that flag and end up as a first round talent, then that's far more enticing than moving up.
You guys are very intelligent, I have to say. You guys are all very smart. I agree, and I know it's not going to be anything where it's like, oh, they're conflicting and they're debating and stuff. I agree with both of you. I think that for me, there's no reason to trade up because the Cowboys, it's the first year where I know that in the past they have said, oh, we need to keep our picks, we need to collect our picks. But this is the first year that they do have more of a limited resource. And I think that, Paul, as you mentioned, the Cowboys do have more holes that they need to fill. Left guard is something that they could draft somebody in the second round, third round, and he could be a potential starter, at that position. So, and I look at when you trade up for someone like a Nolan Smith, he might be buried on the depth chart to start the season and might not get meaningful snaps. And then you're really giving up 2-3 picks for a guy who might be a rotational guy. So I just think take everything and just let it fall to you. If there's somebody like the kid out of Georgia, the defensive tackle, Jalen Carter, like if he falls for whatever reason because of his off the field stuff, if teams aren't really like similar to, I brought this up with Zach, I said, the Laramie Tunsil draft where he just kept falling.
Yeah.
You never know what can come out on draft night. Some of those things are kind of held close to the chest until it kind of breaks. So if someone like that falls to 18 to 20, first off, I don't think any of those teams are going to pass up on him at that point. But if the Cowboys want to kind of put that all-in move, I'm okay with that and taking a player like that if they do their research and their background history on them, which they've proven to show that they do a pretty good job of that. But yeah, I don't want to trade up. If anything, trade back,
yes.
And collect picks. But it depends. Not out of the first round. You need the 5th-year option.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you kind of mentioned left guard there because I know there was some speculation talking about Terrence Steele getting shifted into guard. No, yeah. So. No. And if there was one player I noticed like maybe worth looking at is Dewan Jones from Ohio State, the right tackle. If that's the case, if we're shifting Terrence Steele back inside, then we may have to look at the right tackle perhaps, like just to kind of strengthen that just again re-strengthening that offensive line again. And Dewan's an absolute monster of a kid. So, but yeah,
you're not trusting in Josh Ball. Josh Ball's not your guy.
No.
You really want to fight fire with fire there, Brandon.
Hey, listen. I did see a report from David Moore from the Dallas Morning News. I cited it in an article I did that they think that Josh Ball might get some reps at guard. I think they're just trying to find a spot for him at this point. I think it might be a case where he might just be a roster cut on that final day. But to me, I am very intrigued in what they have with Willetsko.
Yes.
Because to me, there's a guy. There is a guy who is in this draft that Dane Brugler was talking about. For anybody out there who's like a draft junkie, he might be a 7th-round pick, sort of similar to what Mailata was for the Eagles. His name is Jake Witt. He was a tight end convert, from I forget what school he went to, basically like a Division II, Division III school, and he ended up playing left tackle this year. Just on a whim. They just wanted him to play, and he performed very well. His testing numbers were outstanding, and people are looking at him as somebody to develop. But I think the Cowboys already have that type of player in Willetsko, where his numbers were off the charts last season. If it wasn't for the shoulder injury, I think he would have gotten meaningful snaps before Tyron did at right tackle with Terrence Steele going down. So I think that's a name where, again, like we talked about, transitioning your body from college to the pros, getting Willetsko in the gym with Tyron, with Zach Barton, to all those guys, I think you're going to see a different build for him. And he's like Bigfoot. The guy's huge and massive. So
if there's one thing I would want to add on in terms of this offensive line, I think this is going to be a new dawn for the O-line because we've got our new offensive lineman coach.
Yeah.
Different. Is there going to be a different culture to this? There's not going to be like we had with like Colombo and stuff like that. And this guy's had the vast experience. He goes back all the way back to Tom Landry, all the way back in the days. So he knows his stuff. So I would like to think that. So it'll be very interesting to see how our offensive line kind of like if there's anything in terms of like blocking assignment, in terms of technique differences, all those type of things, in terms of kick stepping techniques, in terms of blocking assignments, like kick step more wide out, more deep down. It's all those play into a big massive factor. So be interested to see how it kind of comes along.
Yeah, that's true. And DJ Dog, good point. He is doing that. As we say, it's the lying season. Listen to nothing, which is why one of the things I wanted to talk about now was this. You've already touched on it, guys. Was the Terrence Steele comment that he made? Now, some people are finding a little shock and confusing in it, but I think if you look deep underneath, I think this is just more of what Jerry's heard a comment from the coaches, more about what do you do in terms of Tyler Smith with the development. And I think Jerry has just taken and run with that a little bit. We all know Terrence Steele, right? We know he's not a guard. We can see it. I mean, just saying it sounds weird, right? But think about this. Do we want to continually mess around with Tyler Smith, with his development? We know that he's better left tackle than left guard. So I think what this is more put Tyler Smith at left tackle. Ron Smith is he is
a backup now, pretty much.
No, I would say they're going to move him to right tackle if that's the case, because you can't.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
I don't know. Because there's no way he comes back to Dallas Cowboys, right? There's no way he stays in the Dallas Cowboys on that contract he's on, unless they're offering him a starting position. He's just not going to, because he can go elsewhere and play left tackle in the NFL. But if they're doing that and they're putting him over there, now what do you do with Terrence Steele? So I think this is what has slightly happened, is they've gone, Tyler Smith is your left tackle, Tyron Smith is your right tackle. And then Jerry's gone, oh yeah, so that puts Terrence Steele at left guard. But to me, this is more of a case of Terrence Steele is your swing tackle and inside offensive line is now back on the board for an early draft pick.
My head's fried after that night.
They're going to sell the farm for Peter Skoronsky.
That's a name I can get on board with, that's for sure.
It's an interesting comment, because if Steele is your swing, what happens at left guard? I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
If you want to play your best five guys, regardless of development or fitness level, it's Tyron Smith, Terrence Steele, and then Tyler Smith at left guard.
That would be your best five.
Yeah. But we've seen in the past they don't do that. They don't try and put pegs in square holes and so on. But it's an interesting comment.
I think,
but again, it's a silly season.
Graham, it's funny you brought up Peter Skoronsky. I know the biggest knock on him is, and I heard this, so I forget who it is, so it's not me saying it, but the biggest knock on him is that he has tiny arms. But they did say the T-Rex was a mighty dinosaur. So use that, and I forget who said it, but it's not me saying it. But I do think with this whole conversation, Mike McCarthy, even going back to his Green Bay days, really put an effort into finding his best five guys. Like at one point, I think it was during the 2013 season or maybe 2012, he moved Brian Balaga from right tackle to left tackle before Bakhtiari came in and he broke his leg. So not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm just saying he's willing to shuffle people around and see. And I know we saw what happened when they moved Zach Martin from right guard to right tackle. He got injured. Nobody wants to move around. I do think, and this was as soon as they brought Tyron back on a structured deal, I don't think that he's one of your best five anymore. Talent-wise, yes, but I do think in dependability, I don't think he's one of your best five. And so for me, when we were talking about where he fits in all this, I think Terrence Steele is your right tackle. I think maybe he's saying a lot of these things, Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy, because don't forget they are in contract negotiations. So a right tackle contract compared to a left guard contract is very different. Numbers are going to be very different on that. So I think it might be a little bit more of that, but I think Terrence Steele is your right tackle. Like as it stands right now, I say Terrence Steele right tackle, Tyler Smith left tackle. They'll draft somebody, or it'll be a Chuma Adoga or a Matt Farniak at left guard if they have to. But I think it'll be a draft pick. And then I do think that, of course, Biotish and Martin. And I think Tyron Smith at this point is a very good swing tackle. I think that his contract is incentive based, where if he gets snaps and these guys miss time, that he can just plug right in. It also prevents Terrence Steele from being forced back into the lineup too early for him to kind of ease his way in, just like they did with Michael Gallup. I think they realized that they rushed him maybe a little bit too much. So it's like, give Terrence Steele all the runway he needs to get back to 100%. If Tyron Smith needs to play right tackle for week 1, week 2, that's fantastic. But I think Tyron will be more of the swing rather than Terrence Steele.
I completely agree with you there, Brandon. Like, if there's one thing, like, don't get me wrong, I love Tyron Smith as much as I do. But as history has shown itself, Tyron has not been fully fit for the past 7 seasons at least. Like, he's always missed games in that process. Like, whether it's been nearly a full season or 3 games or 4 games, whatever. But it's becoming now, and especially now he's getting older now. It's going to be very difficult to try and get a full season out of him. So with the whole incentive-based idea, I think that's great. Like for the Cowboys anyway, it does kind of keep the cost down ever so slightly, but also it kind of takes the stress out of Tyron as well. Like you said, to try and make a comeback, become stressful and that. But it's if anything, I just think with Tyron being a swing tackle now, it kind of helps like Tyler and Terrence to fully develop as they should, and we can start focusing like drafting an actual guards, potentially like second round, on who knows. Then maybe we might need to draft one in the first round. Like there's Steve Ivia from TCU, there's all these other guys and stuff like that. So Cyrus Torrance from Florida. So there's all these guys that are name popping right now. We just don't know how we're going to go in this board this year. It's mental.
Well, and last 2 points I just want to make on this, and then anybody else can jump in, is that with Tyron, I mean, just think about like 4 years ago, like would we think that Tyron as a swing tackle like would make any sense? I mean, honestly, it's a great situation. Like the Cowboys having Tyron Smith, and Terrence Steele as 3 legitimate tackles. That's something that we haven't had in a long time. The Cowboys haven't. It's like no more Chaz Greens of the world. Like I always appreciate players at the NFL level. I give them a lot of credit, but it's like you don't want to see that type of world. Even Brandon Knight when he came in during the 2020 season and all that. So it's like it's a good problem to have. And like you brought up, Paul, with the contract, it works out for both parties. Tyron Smith probably didn't want to be traded or released. He probably maybe wants to come back for one more season. And the Cowboys are great. You know, if you want to come back, we're going to structure the contract in a way where it's almost like you're hanging a carrot in front of his face. Like, be the best Tyron you could be. Stay healthy. Like, we'd love for you to be one of the best 5 on the field. And if he's healthy and can perform at a high level, you're getting an all-pro left tackle, right tackle, you know, whatever. Like, that's awesome. And then he gets his money. But if he misses time or is a swing tackle, it's also a win because he keeps his body intact. He has a life after football, and the Cowboys don't have to pay him that much.
See, that I find that's the biggest factor from Tyron's peace of mind. I think it's like if he forces himself to go out there in the field, the more chance he's going to like have a better quality of life after football. So especially in this stage of his career. So I think with him, like if he has that more, I wouldn't say part-time role. It's an unfair statement to say, but with him still being in Dallas and how things may progress along, he could still get that Super Bowl ring, but still kind of retire to the sunset with his body intact. So it is a win-win for all parties, I think.
Yeah. No, it's a tricky one. See, the thing is this is one of those where it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Because like on one side, you stunt Tyler Smith's development. The other side is you put your best 5 out this season. If you kick Tyler back inside and you put Tyron Smith at left tackle and you see how long he lasts and you keep Terrence on the right. Because to me, Terrence Steele, and if you remember, Paul, we did the comparison last year with Terrence Steele in and out. He is the best run blocker on that offensive line to me. It's noticeable. So you've got to have him in there. He's the best run blocker. But it's just trying to figure out how you can go around it. But just want to say a quick shout to everyone sending in the comments. Brilliant. Problem is there's people sending us comments in from Twitter. They do not come up on the screen, but I do have a question for you guys. And then Brandon, I know your time is coming up because it's opening day.
No, but you know what? I'll keep rolling with you guys. I got the time.
Yeah, it's up to you. Remember, you just say the safe word. The safe word on this show is Eagles suck. So just say it and we'll start wrapping things up for you. But something that just come in, which was an interesting one, is it was in this example, what would you do? Bijan makes it to pick 22, which is Baltimore. Would you trade up for him?
No. I would not.
No.
I'm saying it. I would not draft Bijan. He can't pass protect when he's on, like he's not a full package. He's a great running back, but he can't pass protect at all. He gets forced back way too easily. And this is the difference between having an Ezekiel Elliott who can actually do all round. Obviously, he's slowed down over the course of the years, but if there's one thing as a last line of defense for Dak Prescott was Zeke. He was there. He could pass block for a running back, and that's your job when it comes to the passing game.
Yeah. We raised the point on last week's show that if
I got another one off Twitter. Don't worry, keep going.
If the Cowboys do go, say, wide receiver at 26, how often is he going to see the field? Because Brandon Cooks isn't coming in here to sit on the bench. You've got Michael Gallup, who we've brought back and wants to improve. And you've got CeeDee Lamb looking to make number one receiver money. So if you bring in somebody at 26, they have to play 17 games. It's the same at running back. I mean, they've just franchised Tony Pollard. What does that say to Tony Pollard? Yeah, thanks for coming back, Tony, but we've just drafted your replacement. It doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, so it's like maybe we cannot and this is going to be a wild take. Maybe we've been very, very harsh on Jalen Tolbert from last year because he might actually have a breakout this year. Who knows? We just literally just don't know.
It's definitely interesting. I again on our podcast that we had on Tuesday that came out. I said that this draft is almost like the draft of misfit toys, like the old Christmas movie. I said it's like the draft of misfit toys where there's a home for somebody but not for everybody type situation. And I think that when you look at Bijan as a prospect, he's one of the best in the draft. Nobody can really argue with that. But comparing him to running backs in the past, Elliott was a surefire running back prospect. Saquon Barkley is number 2 on that list in the past few years. Bijan is number 3 on that list. To me, I would take Barkley and Elliott in their prime coming out of the draft, over Bijan. And again, that's nothing against Bijan. That's where it kind of falls. And I look at the question is trading up for him or whatever. I think if they are going to draft him, let him fall to you. Stephen Jones mentioned, it's not where the Cowboys are going to be drafting. It's more palatable to draft one, at the back half of the draft rather than in the first half. I don't think they're ever going to take a running back top 10 anymore. But I also think that this draft lines up perfectly to where they could take one in the 3rd round. If they take Tajay Spears in the 2nd round,
that would be nice.
I mean, that's the thing. This draft lines up, I think, perfectly with where their needs are at. And Graham, you brought up a great point of if they take somebody at 26, you want them to get quality time as a starter because that's what the Cowboys need. It would be nice to have depth and a quality piece, but they are looking to win a Super Bowl next year. They made their all-in push. You want your rookie to get a meaningful time on the field. So that means either left guard or, to me, tight end. Even corner, you can kind of make an argument for, depending on, you always want to have your best, defensive backs on the field. You kind of line up with Bland, the rookie, Diggs, and Gilmore and just kind of go all in. But I do think it's lining up to either be an offensive lineman or a tight end, which is a possibility, to where those are your most impactful players at those positions where you can kind of say, okay, you're getting 100% of the snaps.
I'm glad that you mentioned tight end because I can see in the comments everyone's talking about tight end, and who knows? Tolbert could be a bust. We just don't know. I just think with 1 year we're being a bit
needs
too
a chance. He needs
another chance. Yes, but if Kincaid and Musgrave, if one of those guys, I don't see why not. They're good, really good tight ends, and I mean, it's definitely a position that we may have to consider. I mean, I'm on board the Jake Ferguson train. I love Jake Ferguson. I think we should maybe give him the chance. But if people feel we need to draft a tight end, I'm not opposed to it.
These tight ends might very well be better pass catchers than any of the wide receivers in the draft. That's the type of draft that it is right now.
That's
like
true.
A Dalton Kincaid, to me, I'd rather have as a wide out threat over a Jackson Smith and Jigba or a Jalen Hyatt. That's me personally. I just think that he's just a better pass catcher. Again, nothing against the other two guys. If the Cowboys will fall in love with them, of course. But it's just that's the nature of where it stands this year.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the and I put it on my Twitter earlier. I'm on the train. I'm on it, the opposite for him, the Trey Palmer train. You look at Trey Palmer. Go take a look. Right, it is Jalen Hyatt. It's Jalen Hyatt, but 4 rounds later. And I'm just hoping that it's the narrative on him just stays nice and quiet, so that the value stays there and the Cowboys pick him up in the 5th. But go check it out. They're very identical.
So last season, I went to Rutgers University for my undergrad and graduate school. So Big Ten football, once they joined, of course, Rutgers is like the basement of everything. So I get to see all the good players beat up on the team. But for me, I was covering Rutgers football last season. And so I saw a lot of the players, coming out, like you said, Palmer against, Rutgers. He was a great receiver. Another player too, if like they don't take a tight end in the first round, of Sam Laporta out of Iowa. He was the only offensive player for that team, and that offense was terrible. So it's like his production or lack thereof, if he didn't blow up like all these other guys, you put him in the system, that some of these other guys got, like maybe a Darnell Washington in Georgia. If you put him in Penn State's offense or whatever, he's going to be one of their better players. Even like Michael Mayer of Notre Dame, if you take Laporta and put him in that offense, it's just he was very limited. And I know the quarterback coach that actually worked with the guy for Iowa, and it's like, listen, the guy is what he is. It's like you can only get so much out of him. So you take Sam Laporta and put him in this offense with Dak, he's instantly going to be a number 1 target for him and probably have 500-600 yards this season. So it's like it's a benefit to have a good tight end on the roster.
Because he's very much what I like with Sam Laporta is he's kind of what tight ends are moving toward, in that they're tight ends that will run wide receiver routes, that you can play them out that way. Maybe there's a little Jake Ferguson in there. But I would say Laporta is, and like the value as well. My only knock on him is the knee injury that he's had. Yeah. So we don't know what that's like. You never get to see the medicals.
Well, and the last thing on tight ends is when I was recording a podcast back around the Super Bowl, I said, looking at the Super Bowl teams, like where can the Cowboys learn from? Like what roadmap did the Eagles and the Chiefs bring up that the Cowboys can follow? And to me,
there you go.
You brought up a great point, Mike, where the NFL, you look at the top 4 teams that were in the conference championships, 3 of them had the best tight ends in the NFL. Like the tight end is the ultimate mismatch right now for offenses. So when you have an elite one, it can get to that level where they are a critical part of your offense. And look at who's now the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy loves having a quality tight end. So I think it lines up perfectly listen, if Ferguson and even Hendershot, I think, is a more dynamic pass catcher than a Ferguson. But I think if either he or a draft pick are in this offense, I think you're going to see big things because Mike McCarthy's the play caller. And that's what the Cowboys need, I think, to kind of get over that next hump. Yeah,
for sure. Do you want to weigh in, Greg?
Just to go back to the running back situation.
Oh, no, we're going back there.
Just if they do bring in Robinson, say he is available at 26, and they do bring in Robinson, what does that say to their trust in Tony Pollard to be the starter?
Well, are you signing him long term? Like, Graham, would you give Pollard a contract for, like, what would that be if you want to?
Yeah, you're going to have to find out. And if you do bring in Robinson, then in 2, 3, 4 years' time, they're both going to be at the GM's door wishing for a new deal. It's a sticky one. It is a sticky one because he's not a 3-down back. It just, you can franchise him, but draft his replacement in the same spring, the same summer. So it's a strange one. But I will say Mike McCarthy does like a 1-2 punch at running back. So it wouldn't be the strangest thing. But if they want to run the wishbone, I'm all for that.
Yeah, and I mean, like when you look at like Green Bay as well, the type, you know, because that's what I try and think of when I'm thinking of the running back room that Mike McCarthy wants. You think of the Green Bay Packers running back room he had in the past, and you know, you got that one big lumper, you know, you got Cheeseburger Eddie, and then you've got just these. You've got
he was a Big Mac. He was the Big Mac.
Oh yeah, he was addicted to them burgers. But you think that there's that, but then there's just this slew of light, lean running backs that can do a number of different things. You know, that can be quite versatile. That he can move out and he can move around, and you know, you try and think that that's the road he's going to go down. I think, but you know, going back to what you were saying, Brandon, about like, what sort of contract would you give Pollard? I think he is worth having around. Like, you look, the last 2 years, he's finished no lower than second in yards after contact. That's like crazy because he's just so dynamic, so electric, especially when he's moving outside the tackles. So I think if you were going to do it, it's going to be one of those post-draft situations, because although he's on the tag, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play on the tag this year. They can still sign him to a contract. So I think this has tied him in to keep him there. If they get his filler in, if you like, or another running back that they feel more confident going forward in the future, then right, okay, you're just playing on the tag this year and then we're done with you. But I think if not, you would hope, because of where he was drafted and that there's not much tread on the tire and how they've used him over time, and they've stuck with him a little bit in some respects, he would be willing to take a bit of a friendly deal, is what I'm thinking. Because this is going to be really, when you think for running back, is his only contract he's really going to get. So you're hoping he will do something in that respect. So I'm thinking like 9 per. I know that's a lot for a running back, but you think this is going to be really his last contract he's going to be able to sign on. So you're going to have to go down that road, but he's going to not try and push it too high because you want to stay in Dallas. It
would have been interesting to see if he did reach free agency, what a team would value him at, especially coming off of injury and everything. And you bring up a good point in how, me personally, I think this is the only year that Pollard's back with the Cowboys, and then they're going to let him walk, similar to what happened with Dalton Schultz. And I think it'll be similar, where they reportedly offered Schultz a big contract last offseason, and he declined it and just offered, wanted to play on the tag, which, unfortunately didn't work out for him. But I do think that they might offer him a contract, maybe at the absolute most. I could see a scenario where maybe if the franchise tag is at 10 million, maybe they bump it up to 12 a year, and it's like maybe 2 years, 24, something like that. And again, if you're talking about he's second in the league with yards after contact or whatever it was, it's like he's still a valuable player, but you want to see maybe somebody else kind of fill in that role. But that's why I do think that whoever they draft, I do think that the Cowboys, John Machota was talking about this and said that the Cowboys at the Combine were really talking and honing in on the running backs. And, they went and were working out with Tajay Spears. It's not just the top end guys, it's the back end. Me personally, and we were talking about Bijan before, if they want to take a running back at 26, give me Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm all for taking him at 26 because
that's the one.
He might be a second round type prospect, like high second round. But again, when you're picking at the back end of the first, you not only get a high caliber player, but you also, again, that 5th year option when we're talking about what contracts would look like for a running back. It's like you run him into the ground for 5 seasons, and if you want to franchise tag him in the 6th, you get 5 or 6 quality years out of really good running back. But I do think that Pollard is at a point where he doesn't really have any leverage. So maybe he's offered a contract from the Cowboys and just signed, because we saw he signed the franchise tag right away. He didn't have to do that. But I think he realizes, like, the running back market right now is not what it's supposed to be. So I want to cash in as soon as possible. So maybe they offer him a 2-year deal and then he cashes in for a few million more. But I think that would be the absolute most the Cowboys would go. That's the biggest part, really, for Pollard. The biggest panic is the market. Like, where is it at? Because, and I'm all for players making their money. If you can get a few extra million over the 10, like, do that. I'm all for it. Especially at running back, when it's just such a short-lived career. But like, you think like the running back market at the moment is just like so. I mean, like, this is probably the reason why Zeke still hasn't been snapped up, because everybody's just like,
well, what's his worth? What's the value? Because it's not just that. They've got other running backs who are coming off contract. They're going to hit the free agent market or have. You got other teams that are looking to ship off their running backs. Plus, this is a running back heavy draft. So it's just like you can saturate the market. So now where's the value at? Because you don't want to be the team that overpays at a time when you didn't really need to at all.
Yeah, and I don't even think like a Miles Sanders was worth the money that he got. Just again, the nature of the position, not because of the former team that he played for. Now that he's on the Panthers, I have to take the fan hat off. But I do look at, it is in a strange world where we are seeing, even in free agency in general, this past offseason, like the market in general was so low. But I think that's because the crop of people that were available wasn't really that high. Like even Alan Lazard getting $11 million a year. It's like, I wouldn't have paid that, but you would have projected maybe he would get more because he has a little bit more proven talent and there wasn't such a heavy wide receiver top end talent of the draft. So it was definitely an interesting offseason. I think it played in favor of the Cowboys, and that's why offering the tag to someone like Pollard, it's like, it's great. You want to do it for $10 million? Awesome. Sign it. Great. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. And we'll have this. This is the last question. Then we're going to let you get to your baseball, mate, because don't want you to miss any of your beloved Yankees kicking off.
Yeah,
so,
I'm the prototypical fan. I was telling Mike before where it's Cowboys and Yankees. I'm sort of like the homer when it comes to a lot of this stuff.
So we need to get you a Man United shirt as well.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the trifecta,
Go on, Paul. What was you look like you were about to say something.
I was going to say Glasgow Celtic as well, but Graham would have had the fit if I said that.
Why would you say that, Paul?
Champions, mate.
Of Scotland?
Aye. Why not? Why not?
Are we going to go on, fight? Go on, have a fight. All right, so here's a question for you guys, and then we'll leave off with this. Is one of the questions brought in? Like I say, guys, if you comment on our posts in Twitter, they don't come up on here. I've got to be looking at them when they come up, and they flash by quite quick. So, guys, give me a linebacker the Cowboys could target in the 3rd or 4th round. I got my guy, but just what you guys feel. If there's anyone out there, like I've got a couple of guys, but I'll let Brandon. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to start off so I can give you guys a bit of time to inwardly digest that question?
I'll say one. Actually, I got to look it up because I wrote about him a while back. So I'll let somebody go first, and hopefully nobody takes him.
All right. So all right, the guy I would say the Cowboys should target or could do. Or do you want to go, Paul? You look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, I've got two in my mind. I've got the Tulane linebacker Dorian Williams. And also the Marion Overshown from Texas. That's the two guys I think they could be there in the 3rd round.
That's my next scouting report, actually, is going to be Overshown. Because he has as well. He's been a formal visit by the Cowboys at the Combine.
Yes, and DJ Dog backs me up on that one. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he is an interesting one. All right, the guy, I'm kind of cheating on mine a little bit because he kind of plays more edge than linebacker, but mine is Ivan Pace from Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to say. I was looking it up. I was like,
go for it. You go for it.
We'll both hit on him because I do think that I heard him say something at the Combine where he said, like, I want to wrestle guys as a linebacker. And it's like, he has, I like when linebackers have a background in wrestling because it just shows like the willingness to tackle, get physical. And some of these guys, they brought it up. And I just think that with someone like him, he's not somebody that is a top flight linebacker prospect. But I think with what you look at with a Jabril Cox, it's like, you need to know where you stand with him this offseason. And so if you can get somebody to kind of push him a little bit more, and you do need more help on the special team side of things, I think he creates just he fills a need where he's not only going to be playing a vital role on special teams, but he's just a great linebacker. I really just enjoyed watching his tape and just the tenacity that he plays with. And I like his demeanor. Like, give me a good linebacker that has that mentality where they're just wired a little bit crazier than the rest of the NFL. Like, and just, he seems like that guy.
See, would he not be gone in by the 2nd round, you think? Pace.
That's what I'm saying, where I think because the Cowboys are drafting at the back end of the 2nd, they even did this with Tyler Smith last year. Like, Tyler Smith probably on a lot. I know the Cowboys said they had a first round grade on him, but teams might have had a second round grade on Tyler Smith, but because they're picking at the back end, they have to say, like, we need to take him now. Otherwise, we're not going to get him in the second. So it might be a case where they take, like, even I said earlier, like Tajay Spears for maybe a lot of people is a third round guy. I wouldn't mind taking him in the second. Like, I just think he's that good of a player. And it's like, at the end of the day, these players, they're either going to be good or they're going to be bad. Like, bottom line, that's my football knowledge that I want to tell the people. They're going to be good or they're going to be bad.
Yeah, Brandon, if there's one thing we always say here, it's like the draft is like the lottery. You just don't know. You just don't know if you got a winner or not. And
and I look at, okay, so you want to protect yourself with like a safe pick, right? Like, for instance, I know the Cowboys aren't in the realm of drafting a quarterback, but you look at somebody like a Bryce Young. Everybody is a lottery ticket. If you look at it this way, Bryce Young is a lottery ticket, maybe a $1 lottery ticket that has like a max of $5 of a payout. It's like, okay, the odds of you winning the $5 is pretty high. Like, you're a winner. It's gonna be a surefire prospect. But you look at Anthony Richardson. You know, you might have to give up a first round pick that's like a $30 lottery ticket, but the payout is $10,000. It's like, well, are you going to win the 10 grand or are you going to win nothing? And so it's like you take a high risk, but you mentioned, Pace, it's like they might have to take him in the second round. And I would be okay with it. Like, I see the justification for it because the Cowboys need it. They need to fill a linebacker position. And I trust Dan Quinn. Like, Dan Quinn is the ultimate equalizer. It's he's the golden goose when it comes to like draft and when it comes to lottery stuff. So, he's like the Buddha with all this. You rub the belly or you rub the bald head and you'll get some good luck.
Very true. But go on, what's your guy, Gray?
Does Henry Toho fall to the?
Yeah, I would say he'll be second or third. Yeah, he's a good player.
If he starts, a 4.6 40, I mean that'll do me at linebacker.
Oh.
And I just looked up a 1.57 10-yard split. NFL.com, I've got him down as a Christian Kirksey type. But does he make the fourth round? Probably not. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit there.
Yeah, but it's third, fourth, it works. I mean, me and Brian have spoken about Giotto before when we were covering linebackers. He's a good player. The only issue I've got for him is how I feel he fits on the Cowboys defense. But as Brandon mentioned, you got Dan Quinn is the great equalizer. Fit doesn't matter.
I will throw a question to the three of you. Would you take, and he might not be there, as we talked about, would you be in favor of taking Jack Campbell in the second round?
Yes, I would, definitely.
Because, again, I watched him in person live, and it's just he is a different player. Again, he's wired differently. He to me, is like your prototypical linebacker, like a Sean Lee, where they're all Captain America-esque. Here I go being a statesman, with my America references. But it's like you have somebody that is just like a hard worker, a grinder, like a film junkie, and he shows it on the field too. Like, he might be. Some people look at him as one of the better like linebackers in the draft, top 1, top 2. So if he can fall to second, I'm all for him in round 2. But
I mean, like, you can't ignore the Dick Butkus Award winner if you're there in the second round. You just got to do it. He's a tackling machine. And what's good about it is, I know he doesn't give you much in terms of pass rush, but in terms of his run defense, tackling, but also a little bit that people miss over of with Campbell is it's his coverage.
Yeah,
his coverage. The pass.
Yeah, I've got his coverage score right now. It's 92.9.
Yep.
That's good. What's that on? PFF?
Yeah.
His
run defense is 87 out of 100. I mean, his pass rush grade is 65, but for the type of position that he does in more coverage, he'd be more ideal for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cowboys can move on from Leighton Vander Esch next year and have Campbell as his replacement, just slot him right in. It's just, that's why the type of moves that they made in free agency, kind of going full circle, it's like, it fills the holes, it fills the needs right now. And if you need to move on from these guys this year or next year, you're protected. It's like, it's all good.
Yeah, it's keeping. I think the best analogy I'm trying to think of here is it's keeping the train at a steady pace, going year after year. But if you miss an opportunity to fit a major component, then it all falls apart. Then it sets you back. Then you need to start the train again.
The most successful franchises have their blue chip players from the draft, not try and buy them through free agency, because I mean, as much as the draft is a lottery ticket to me, and I put out an article on Blogging the Boys where it's 11 mistakes the Cowboys usually avoid in free agency, and people have been dogging them for years, but it's like over the past few seasons they've become smarter, they've learned from their mistakes, and one of the biggest things is that they have drafted and developed as their pure model. And that, to me, has protected them from free agency when deals don't work out. Like an Anthony Barr came in last year, and you're not signing him to a 3-year, $30 million deal where now it's like, okay, do we have to keep paying this guy? But he's such a good player when he was with Minnesota. Why isn't he playing well? Well, that's what happens with free agency and a lot of these guys you bring in. Look at Allen Robinson in LA. I mean, they're trying to get rid of him. Bobby Wagner, they cut, and it's like they brought all these guys in to be their next wave to get him back to the Super Bowl, and they have to release him because they're just too much of a cap hit.
We knew that was going to happen. Like, it's like they went all in terms of spending. Like, they had Von Miller, they had Odell Beckham, and they're just trying to bring up star after star, sell the merchandise pretty much to kind of make revenue. But now it's really starting to hit them back big time now.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've taken up more time than you was going to award us, Brandon. So we will wrap that. But every special guest we get on, I ask the same question. Okay. So you, luckily for us, we're friends with you, and it turns out you're now the GM of the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh,
so,
man.
Don't forget about us while you're up there. All right. Don't forget about us, little people. You're now the Dallas Cowboys GM. It is you on the clock at 26. Who is Brandon Laurie taking?
First off, do I get all the money that the GM has for the Cowboys? Is that that would solve? I like to say money doesn't solve all the world's problems, but it solves all of my world problems. So man, I have thought about this a lot. I would love to take, if he's there, me personally, give me Dalton Kincaid if he's there. I like Dalton Kincaid because I do think that, like I said, one of the best pure pass catchers in the draft. But I do think it's going to come down to tight end or interior offensive lineman. And I think that if they take a Steve Avila, he seems like he has the right mentality. He, to me, is like a Ronald Leary, where he's not a guy, but he's stout, he's built, and
versatile.
And on top of that, you have a guy that will grow, like I said, get another offseason of professional NFL training camp in there and workout and conditioning. I think you're going to see him turn into somebody different, get him with Duke Manyweather and all those guys. But I think if third on the list of those two guys aren't there, I absolutely love Emmanuel Forbes. I covered Mississippi State for a very limited time, but to me, just when I watched him play and he was up for, I forget what award it was in the preseason, he was on a watch list, and I was like, okay, let me do some research on this guy. To me, I understand the 166 pounds. He is very slight. He's very slight. Like Devontae Smith coming in to the league makes him look even smaller because Devontae Smith looks bigger than him, but I think that he doesn't lead or doesn't have the all-time record in pick sixes in FBS history for a reason. Like, it's not just because it just happened. Like, the guy has a nose for the football. He would be an excellent player to have to build around Trayvon Diggs if they can get Diggs signed to have the two of them for the next, 5-6 years. But I'm all in favor of that if everything kind of else falls apart, or trade back and then you can get him at 31.
I do like Emmanuel Forbes, and like that's my next article coming out on Blogging the Boys is his report. My issue with him is I'm worried about how similar he is in terms to Trayvon Diggs, as in that he will sell everything for an interception.
Yeah.
Very much like, people argued about Trayvon Diggs being that boom or bust, where he's either scoring a pick six or they're scoring a touch, or the opposition's scoring a touchdown. Emmanuel Forbes is very much like that.
Yep. To me, give me that mentality for a cornerback every day of the week. I'll take that type of mentality rather than somebody. And I love Byron Jones. I hope he continues to play or he stays healthy. But to me, it's like he was a great cornerback, but just could never take the ball away. And you wonder how many more times, if he was able to be that guy, how many more games that they would have won. And I look at, the defense everybody said that they couldn't repeat in leading the NFL in takeaways. Well, they did it 2 years in a row. You get somebody like Forbes in there to go with a Curse, a Hooker, a Diggs. I mean, you're cooking with peanut oil, as I like to say. Where it's just unless you're allergic to peanut allergies, then we could change that. But I do think that you have an elite secondary in the NFL, and I think nobody would be wanting to throw on anybody.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, there we go.
Oh man,
there you are.
Production quality of this podcast, even with the intro music and everything, is it's chef's kiss. It was so I was getting hyped up, and it's just like I said, you guys do such a great job, and I'm so happy that you guys are gonna be doing a lot more things with the Cowboys and all that, and it's just I'm all for it. I'm a big fan of what you guys got.
We just like conversation, mate, especially with people that can put us in our place like yourself. So
that's probably the best way to say it.
What happens is we go on a little streak where we feel confident enough not to get guests on, and then it turns out that you listen back and you're like, I was babbling on and talking a lot of crap there. We need a guest on.
Exactly.
So, we're just going to run the adverts. You can stay if you want, but we'll let you go if you want and get to your baseball and go see your family, because I know you're over at your dad's house.
I'll get back to that. But like I said, I mean, you guys do such great work. Again, Mike, we work together as close as possible to be overseas. But I know Paul, you guys do great work on the World's team, and Graham, I know we just met, but you're fantastic as well. So you guys do really good stuff, and so I'm looking forward to hopping on. Again, schedule's worked out a lot better than the regular season, so I'm always free to hop on whenever you want me back.
Well, we're going to try and work something on draft day, because we'll have as many people on as we can come in and give their opinion. So I'll touch base with you and see what your schedule's like. I know it's going to be a busy day.
Yeah. All right. Listen, if I can get there, that would be great. So we'll see if that works out. But yeah, definitely.
This time's easy for us compared to Sunday and Monday night. That's when we really dig deep.
It's the post-game shows where we struggle.
Yeah.
But we let you go, mate, and it's been an honor and a pleasure. That was the great and powerful Brandon Laurie. Go follow him at Brandon is Right, spelled with a W, over at Blogging the Boys and the Writers Block. Thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Woo-hoo. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Brandon.
Cheers, man.
That was beautiful.
Legend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, honestly, sometimes when we do the mailbag, I let him answer first so I can copy his answers a little bit. I'm like Mr. Bean on that first episode. He's peering over the shoulder of the guy trying to copy his answers.
So at least you have now admitted it now.
I have no problem admitting it. Let me tell you. I just hope RJ hasn't listened. He's like, oh, that's how he does it, eh? But all right then, Paul, hit me with it.
Yes, guys, if you're planning on going to a Dallas Cowboys game this year, as we are, be sure to go and check out cowboysexperience.com for ultimate meet and greet, stadium tours, great, amazing game tickets, and the ultimate tailgating experience, and much, much more.
Yeah, boy. Graham, hit me with this.
Yeah, make sure you check out the Dallas Cowboys 2023 package with the UK Cowboys fans. The guys are heading over.
I just realized what I did there.
Yeah,
I made you do the read on the thing that you're not going to. I do apologize. Hold on, let me finish it off.
Good.
Let me finish. No. Hold on. Right, let's rewind. This is the 2023 travel package. We're going to be over with Cowboys Experience our Thanksgiving. Make sure to go check it on our social media for all the details or inbox us. Graham, hit me with this, mate.
Make sure you check out all the Cowboys content creators. Obviously, we're all gearing up for the draft. We're all talking about good stuff this time of year. Yeah. There is no Cowboys football on Sunday at the moment, so make sure you fill out your week with us. Some fantastic shows. Talking Cowboys, hanging with the boys. We have plenty of guys come on the show and say hello throughout the season, so make sure you join us for those as well.
Yeah, baby. So, as always, thank you very much to everyone who sent in the comments. You are the MVPs of the show, as we always say. Without you, it's just us not babbling on. So you make the show. You are our MVPs, and you know we mean it when we say it. So, and everyone as well on Twitter that was commenting and trying to get involved, doing our best. I tried to follow it. Comments
were on fire tonight. Okay, Mike. Just
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I pressed the wrong button. I actually did that last week too.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the comments were on fire tonight, and thanks to everyone that made all the comments. Especially all you guys were making all the tight end comments. That was just going ridiculous on YouTube. So thank you guys. And yeah.
See, Mike saw Nolan Smith fall to 26 and wanted to get the pick in straight away. He was so excited.
Have a nice weekend, guys. These two are taking us out. Stay safe. See you on Tuesday.
Dallas forever, Philly for never.
O-line at 26.